My name is Aiko Tanaka. I am 33 years old. And today feels like my first day at work. Again. And somehow, also my last. The elevator is too quiet. The lights overhead flicker faintly. I know this building by heart. But every corner feels colder. Every stair feels longer. And yet, no one is looking. I've worked here for 7 years. 7 years of quiet dedication. I never missed a deadline. I never raised my voice. I always smiled at the security guard. I always stayed later than expected. I didn't complain. Even when I should have. My desk is still the same. But the chairs around it have changed. New faces. Fresher suits. Louder laughs. I used to belong here. Now I'm furniture. People greet me less now. They used to say good morning, Tanaka-san. Now it's just a nod. Or silence. The kind that pretends it doesn't notice me. But it does. It notices me very carefully, just not out loud. My boss's name is Mr. Hayashi. He's younger than me. Less experienced. But he has the right friends. The right surname. The right arrogance. He used to ask for my input in meetings. Used to forward my reports with brilliant work in the subject line. Now he talks over me. Cuts me off. Forgets to invite me at all. They say the best place to hide a knife is between the lines of a compliment. Last month, I was pulled into an impromptu performance review. 2 men in suits I didn't know sat across from me. Hayashi stood beside them, hands folded, smiling like nothing was wrong. Aiko-san, we've noticed some inconsistencies, one of them said. Inconsistencies. They say that word the way people say disease. Like something you caught. Something you can't scrub off. We'd like to shift some of your responsibilities. We feel your strengths are better suited elsewhere. Let's try a new direction together. Every sentence felt like it was covered in bubble wrap. Soft. Safe. But inside, sharp. They were firing me without firing me. Moving me sideways, downwards, outwards. Like I was a stain on a perfect white wall. Hayashi smiled and said, "You've been so valuable to us. Let's give someone else a chance to learn from your foundation." My foundation? He stood on it. And now he wanted to bury me under it. That night I sat on my apartment floor. No lights. Just the hum of the fridge. I didn't cry. I didn't eat. I just sat. And counted every hour I'd given them. Every birthday I worked through. Every holiday I canceled. Every idea they took. Every credit they gave to someone else. I wanted to scream. To throw my phone. To text someone, they ruined me. But I didn't. Because they hadn't. Not yet. They had buried me alive. But I wasn't dead. I was just quiet. And that silence? It was the beginning. There is a kind of power in being invisible. Not at first. At first, it feels like dying. Like slowly fading out of every photo you used to be in. Like walking through glass doors that used to open. But now stay shut. But if you stay still long enough, they forget you're there. And that's when you begin to hear things you were never meant to hear. That's when the ghost wakes up. In meetings now, I sit at the far end of the table. No one asks for my opinion. No one reads my reports aloud. They glance past me like I'm part of the wall. But I listen. Hayashi talks too much. He likes the sound of his own voice. And when people like that think no one's listening, they tell you everything. I learned who was being promoted before they knew. I learned whose contracts were expiring. I learned that Hayashi was taking credit for my past projects in his new presentations. Word for word. But I said nothing. Because ghosts don't talk. We haunt. One morning I arrived early. Earlier than anyone else. I sat at my desk in the dark, just the hum of servers around me. And I pulled out the backup drive I always kept in my purse. Not because I knew this would happen. But because I never fully trusted the system. I opened folders. Project blueprints. Email chains. Meeting transcripts. Proof that the brilliant ideas Hayashi had been presenting were mine. My name. My drafts. My timestamps. I labeled a folder. Truth. In the break room, they laughed louder now. It was a sound I used to love. Now it was hollow. I watched a younger woman take my old place in meetings. I saw her stumble over data I'd once memorized. I watched Hayashi nod patiently like a teacher correcting a child. That used to be me. Except no one corrected me. Because I was never wrong. I started taking walks at lunch. Not to eat. Just to move. Just to breathe somewhere no one knew my name. And I'd sit on a bench outside the building. With a notebook. I wrote everything. Who entered Hayashi's office? Who left in tears? What was said in passing? Which files suddenly disappeared from shared drives? Information. Because power doesn't always come from title or rank. Sometimes, it comes from silence. And knowing exactly when to break it. They never taught us how to fight in silence. They taught us to nod. To thank people who took credit and to bow even when we bled. But no one ever taught us that truth could whisper louder than power. Now I was learning. Now I was teaching myself. The folder I called Truth was growing. Project drafts, timestamped. Email threads, unedited. Screenshots of Hayashi praising my work. And then forwarding it under his name. Meeting recordings I wasn't supposed to have. But did. I didn't collect these out of paranoia. I collected them because something inside me never trusted how easily people forget the ones who built their foundation. I watched them step on the stones I laid. Watched them decorate the walls I designed. And when the applause came, I wasn't even in the room. One afternoon, I walked into the bathroom and overheard two women whispering near the sinks. She doesn't talk anymore. I think they're phasing her out. She used to be smart though. I remember she fixed the Hayashi crisis last year. I stayed in the stall. Quiet. It was strange, hearing pieces of yourself repeated like folklore. Like a ghost story told by the living. When I walked out, they looked up. Then quickly down. As if eye contact could make them guilty. I just washed my hands. And left. Because I didn't need apologies. I needed consequences. That weekend, I uploaded the first set of files anonymously. To HR. To legal. To a journalist I trusted. I didn't include my name. I didn't have to. Because the truth was already loud enough. On Monday, everything felt different. Hayashi walked in later than usual. Didn't make eye contact. Stayed in his office all day. Whispers filled the corridors. People looked confused, cautious, curious. I sat at my desk. Typed quietly. And waited. At 3:12 p.m., the internal memo was sent. Effective immediately, an investigation into project documentation and authorship is being launched. Hayashi's name was in bold. Mine was not. But I knew. And so did he. At 5:01 p.m., my email account was locked out for 30 seconds. Just long enough to make me wonder. Had they found out it was me? But it came back. And when it did, there was a message in my inbox. From the head of compliance. Ms. Tanaka. We would like to meet. They thought I'd never speak. And in a way, I didn't. Not in the way they expected. No raised voice. No tears. No dramatic exit. Just a calendar invite. And a door I chose to walk through. I arrived early. I always arrive early. The conference room smelled like recycled air and old promises. 2 chairs. A long table. A glass wall that showed nothing but blurred silhouettes moving on with their day. At 10:03, the door opened. The head of compliance entered. Black suit. Neutral face. Behind him, one of the company's internal legal advisors. Clipboard. Eyes that didn't blink enough. They sat. I didn't smile. They didn't either. Aiko-san, one of them began. Thank you for coming. We wanted to follow up on recent submissions. Submissions. That word again. So formal. So afraid of saying the truth out loud. I nodded. Waited. They shifted in their seats. We're aware of several instances where intellectual property appears to have been misattributed. We are also aware of performance reviews that may not have reflected actual contribution. I let the silence stretch. Long enough for them to hear it echo. Then I opened my folder. Printed pages. Dates. Emails. Charts. Signatures. A short breath escaped one of their mouths. This is very thorough. Yes. Because I had been very thorough. 4 years. Then I did something they didn't expect. I pulled out a second folder. This one thinner. Neater. With only one thing inside. A resignation letter. Effective immediately. No notice. No reason given. They blinked. You're leaving? I nodded. I gave this company my voice. It chose not to hear me. Now I'm giving it my silence. And sometimes, silence is louder than anything else. I stood up. Walked to the door. And stopped. Turned around. By the way, I said. There are more copies of those files. And then I smiled. Not because I was happy. But because I was done. When you leave a place that tried to erase you, the real victory isn't in the exit. It's in what they do after you're gone. I didn't return my access card. They deactivated it within hours, I'm sure. But it still sat on my kitchen table. Like a trophy. Like a wound I could finally look at without flinching. I didn't tell anyone I left. Not even the few people who still made eye contact. I let the system inform them. Let them wonder. A week passed. Then the messages started. Not from HR. Not from Hayashi. From them. The quiet ones. The overlooked. The other ghosts. Aiko-san, was this you? I think I saw your old design in the new audit. Someone's finally asking questions. Each message felt like a match being lit in a dark room. Little by little. The truth was catching fire. Then the headline came. Internal whistleblower prompts audit at leading tech firm. No name. No photograph. But I knew. And so did Hayashi. A former colleague sent me a screenshot. He was escorted out of the building. No warning. No goodbye. Just a security badge handed back and a silence that no one dared break. The golden boy had fallen. And the floor echoed louder without him than it ever had with him in it. People asked me if I was happy. If I felt satisfied. If it was revenge. It wasn't. Revenge is a fire. This was cold. This was wind. I didn't destroy him. He did. I just opened the window. They say closure comes when you forgive. But sometimes, it comes when you stop waiting for an apology. And just walk away. After Hayashi fell, I didn't celebrate. There were no parties. No speeches. No, I told you so. I didn't need any of it. Because what I gained wasn't his absence. It was my presence. I started waking up without setting an alarm. For the first time in years, I wasn't tired. I wasn't rushing. I walked aimlessly around Tokyo. Streets I hadn't noticed before. Windows filled with things I didn't need. But for once, I stopped. And looked. There was a woman at a bookstore reading silently /na girl sketching at a train station /n. A mother whispering to her child in the rain. And I realized something. The world isn't loud. It just gets louder when we go quiet. I joined a freelance network. Started consulting quietly. No offices. No bosses. No glass walls. Just me. And my work. And the people who saw it as mine. One afternoon, I received a message. From a young woman still at the company. She wrote. I stayed because you proved we weren't invisible. I stayed because your silence shook the ground. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Instead, I opened a new notebook. The kind with blank pages. No logos. No watermarks. Just space. And on the first page, I wrote. I used to think silence was weakness. Now I know, it's a strategy. And sometimes, it's a revolution. /n Aiko Tanaka. I still walk quietly. Still speak gently. But now, when I do speak, it's for me.